I'm about to say something that might mess with you. Most people don't get stuck because they're weak. They get stuck because they ended something halfway. You didn't lose the thing, you lost the ending. Because here's what nobody tells you. The way you say goodbye decides what you're allowed to receive next. Not in some mystical manifestation way, in a psychological way, in a nervous system way. Maybe you're not still stuck on that person. Maybe you're stuck on the version of the story where they finally understand you, so you keep checking their profile like it's a heartbeat monitor, and you still have their stuff. The hoodie, the photos, the thread you accidentally never deleted. Not because you're sentimental, because letting go would make it real. The biggest lie you keep telling yourself is, I just need closure. No, closure isn't something they give you. It's something you stop begging for. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the exact reason you can't move on. And the one kind of goodbye that finally clears space for what's next. I used to run a preschool with my friend Maya, and once a week we had this little ritual with our 3 to 5-year-olds. We'd take them into the woods behind the building and give them one instruction that sounded ridiculous to adults, but made total sense to kids. Go find dead things. And they loved it. They'd scatter like tiny scientists. A kid named Eli would come back holding a fallen branch, like it was treasure. Sophia would bring a curled brown leaf and whisper, "It's sleeping." Sometimes someone would drag over a rusty piece of metal they found half buried in mud, and you could see their eyes light up like they'd discovered a secret. Then we'd gather in a little circle under the fir trees and lay everything out on a blue tarp for show and tell. What shocked me wasn't what they brought back. It was how they looked at it. They were curious, they asked questions, they made up stories. Eli decided the rusty car part had fallen off a spaceship. Sophia said the leaf was a blanket a mouse was borrowing until summer came back. These kids weren't avoiding endings, they were studying them. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that day showed me what a fake goodbye looks like, because adults do the opposite of what those kids did. We don't want to name it, we don't want to lay it out in front of us and say, this ended, this died. So we keep it half alive. We call it being mature. We call it leaving the door open. But it's not kindness, it's fear, wearing good manners. I remember one little girl, her name was Harper, who held up a leaf and said something I still think about years later. I think the trees are really kind because they let the leaves fall so new ones can grow. It would be sad if the tree couldn't grow new leaves. That sentence hit me like a truth I'd been avoiding my whole life. Because that's what fake goodbyes do. They don't let the leaf fall, they make you tape it back onto the branch, even though it's already dead, and then you wonder why nothing new grows. You wonder why you're tired all the time. A door left, cracked, becomes a room you can't exit. The kids showed me something simple. Endings aren't the enemy. They're the price of renewal. The problem isn't that something ended. The problem is that you refuse to let it fall. Here's the part most people get wrong. We tell ourselves we can't let go because we cared too much or because it meant something real. But that's not the real mechanism. Plenty of meaningful things end cleanly. Plenty of painful things still get released. What actually keeps us stuck is quieter than heartbreak. The first reason we can't finish an ending is because we're still demanding something from the past. An explanation, an apology, a different version of events. We're still trying to get paid emotionally for something that already closed its account. And as long as you're waiting to be paid, you're not free. The second reason is harder to admit. Ending something fully means accepting what it really was, not what you hoped it would become. If you let go, you lose the fantasy that it might one day make sense, feel fair, or turn into the story you rehearsed in your mind. Half goodbyes keep that fantasy alive. They let you say, maybe one day, instead of facing, this is all it was. That's not weakness, that's protection. The third reason sits even deeper. When you don't close the door, you avoid grieving the version of yourself that existed inside that chapter. Who you were when you thought love, effort, or loyalty would change the outcome. Letting go doesn't just mean losing them. It means saying goodbye to that version of you. And that hurts in a way most people aren't prepared for, so we stall, we call it maturity, while quietly staying attached. But here's the truth. You're not holding on to the person, you're holding on to the identity you were inside that story, the hope that it proved something about your worth, the belief that it meant you were chosen, seen, or special. That's why endings feel threatening. They don't just close relationships, they collapse identities. And until you're willing to let that identity die, you'll keep every door slightly open. Not because you're confused, but because some part of you is still asking the past to confirm who you are. Real endings don't happen when the pain is gone. They happen when you stop negotiating with what already happened. If they never apologize, never explain, and never come back, can you still choose to be free? Or do you need the past to confirm your worth before you're allowed to move on? Here's the turning point most people never reach. Because when we talk about goodbye, we imagine a conversation, a final message, a moment where both people understand and walk away peacefully. That image is comforting, but a real goodbye is internal, quiet, unwitnessed. It's the moment you stop asking the past to explain itself. Most people think they haven't moved on because they still feel something, but feeling isn't the problem. Feeling can exist without attachment. What keeps you stuck is the silent negotiation that never ended. A real goodbye starts when you name what happened without editing it, not defending it, not adding but maybe at the end. Just telling the truth as it was. Not the version you hope for, not the version that makes you look better, just the version that happened. You allow yourself to grieve, not just the person, but the future you built around them. This grief isn't dramatic, it's sobering. It's the quiet realization that something meaningful won't be carried forward with you. You stop waiting for remorse, clarity, or validation. You stop hoping they'll one day say the words that finally make it make sense. Not because they're bad, not because you forgive them, but because they no longer have access to your future. A real goodbye doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means you refuse to let it keep charging rent in your life. That's the shift. When you stop demanding payment from the past, your energy returns to the present, not all at once. Not dramatically, but enough to feel the difference between attachment and freedom. A real goodbye doesn't erase the past, it ends its authority over you. And that's when the next chapter becomes possible, not because you're ready, but because you're no longer stuck halfway out the door. When you don't end something, you still pay for it. You pay with your attention first. You'll be in the middle of a normal day, answering emails, driving home, sitting with someone who actually cares about you, and a single memory hijacks you. One screenshot in your mind, one old phrase, one what if, and suddenly you're not in your life anymore. You're back in a room that no longer exists, arguing with someone who isn't there. That's the tax of an unfinished ending. It keeps pulling you out of the present. You pay with your self-respect too. Unfinished endings make you do small things that don't feel like you. Checking their profile even though you promised you wouldn't. Rereading the thread when you're lonely. Keeping the door open just in case, while pretending it's for peace. Over time, those tiny compromises add up. You start trusting yourself less because you keep watching yourself go back. And the most expensive cost is the one nobody talks about. You pay with your future, not in some poetic way, in a practical way, because your next chapter requires space, and half-open doors take up space. They take up emotional bandwidth. They take up imagination. They keep your life arranged around an absence. Here's what that looks like. You hesitate before saying yes to something good. You second-guess opportunities that could change you. You stay in the almost zone, almost dating, almost trying, almost committing, because some part of you is still loyal to what ended. Even if you hate it, even if it hurt you, even if it's over, that's how powerful an unfinished ending is. It doesn't just keep you remembering, it keeps you unavailable. I've seen people switch jobs, switch cities, switch partners, and still carry the exact same pattern, different face, same wound, different story, same ending that never ended, because what you refuse to finish, you repeat. And that's why this matters so much. If you want a new life, you can't keep living with one foot in the old one. The cost isn't just pain. The cost is missing what could have been waiting for you because you were still stuck negotiating with what already happened. If you want to end it properly, you don't need a dramatic speech. You need a clean internal decision and a few actions that make that decision real, because your brain can lie to you, your environment won't. So here are 5 practical ways to close a chapter without pretending it didn't matter. First, write the letter you'll never send. Not to prove a point, this is for you. Start with one sentence you've been avoiding. This is what I wanted from you. Then write what you didn't get, be honest. Then end it with, and this is what I'm no longer asking you to give me. When you see it on paper, the negotiation stops feeling endless. Second, remove the shrine. I'm not telling you to erase memories. I'm telling you to stop living inside them. If your room still looks like the past, your nervous system will keep acting like the past is present. Put the photos away, move the objects, change the layout, make it harder for your mind to slip into that old loop at 1 a.m. Third, close the invisible contract. A lot of us are secretly using someone as a judge. We're still trying to win their approval. Say this out loud, even if it feels corny. You are no longer the person who gets to decide my worth. That sentence ends a contract you never agreed to but have been paying for. Fourth, grieve the identity, not just the person. Sometimes you're not attached to them. You're attached to who you were when you believed this would work, the hopeful version of you, the loyal version of you. Say goodbye to that version gently. Thank them for trying. Let them rest. Fifth, choose one boundary that hurts a little. If it doesn't sting, it's probably not real. Unfollow. Stop checking in. Remove the open invitation, not because you hate them, because you're choosing your life. A boundary is a goodbye with self-respect. Do one of these today, not all 5. Pick the one that makes your chest tighten. That's usually the one that frees you, because real endings aren't about being over it. They're about stopping the leak and finally giving your future the space it's been waiting for. Someday isn't coming. That's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up, because the way you end something doesn't just decide how you remember it. It decides what you're allowed to receive next. What do you have room for? What you're emotionally available for? What can finally enter your life without having to compete with a half-open door behind you? If you've been waiting for the past to give you permission to move on, consider this your sign. You don't need one more explanation. You don't need one more conversation. You don't need the ending to feel perfect. You just need it to be real. If this hit you, share it with someone who's been standing in a doorway they should have closed a long time ago, not to pressure them, but to remind them they're allowed to step forward. And if you want more conversations like this, honest ones, uncomfortable ones, the kind that actually change how you live, subscribe, because the clock is always ticking, and your life It's already waiting for you.